sweeties, how are you doing? Welcome to Naya Sim. If this is your first time of coming across this channel, sweetheart, kindly smash that subscribe button, turn on the notification so you are notified each time I upload, and please give this video a thumb up. I appreciate you all so much, and I am saying massive shout out to every one of you for all the love and support you all give me here. I am truly grateful. Thank you all so much. So today we'll be talking something very important, and it's about a white woman who is exposing her own people about lynching, how they actually started lynch and chain, and how it was done by Christians. And most of the horrible things that happened were done by Christians. And she went deep to talk. Even she was actually calling out her own people. Not even, she was like, Black people, this is very triggering for you. We do not want it to, but if you want, you can stay back. But this is especially for white people. So for all the white people that comes to my email to tell something, this is not coming from a Black person. Most of the backup or the stitches I got were from Black people, but the person that started this whole conversation is a white person. Maybe you can believe her more than I. So she talked about how Mary Turner was laying and chained with her baby, and how they also burned her, and how they also go from church, the people that believe so much in Christ, how they leave church to where they are going to lynch and chain Black people, and how they share postcards. And for you to share postcards during all this, it means it is something they plan. Like, it is not something they always plan for it and then do it. Lynch and chain somebody and then go back to church. I am trying to wrap my head around all this, but man, it is so hard for me to comprehend, right? I think I said this I met a Turkish person while in the bus, and he started talking about history. He doesn't even know me, I don't know him. And he said Black American history is one of the saddest history he has ever seen, he has ever heard. That the fact that they went through all this and still going through it is something he doesn't understand. I was like, huh? How do you know? He said, he knew. I am just going to roll this clip. We'll come back to talk about it. Let me know what you all think in the comment section. Straight up, I am rolling the clip.
If you are Black, please continue scrolling. This video might be triggering. If you're white, please stick around. Let's get into it. When in American history was lynching going on? Let's start at the end of the Civil War, which was indisputably fought over slavery. When the Confederacy lost, Black people were given constitutional rights. But making a law saying that Black people were people did not convince all of the white supremacists who lost the war and were kind of butthurt about it. After the Civil War, there was a brief period that we call Reconstruction, where the Northern troops protected Black people from their former slave owners. And for just about 12 years, Black people voted and they held office and they owned land and they built schools and they flourished. And then the North just stopped protecting them, just like that. But white supremacists really wanted to keep the racial social order, and their answer to this problem was lynching. So let's not mince words. This was a terrorist campaign. Yes, white people were terrorists. From 1882 to 1968, 4,743 lynchings occurred. Many historians believe the true number is underreported. So their goal was essentially to say to the Black community, yeah, I guess you technically have the right to vote, but if you do, me and my friends will come find you and your pregnant wife and torture you to death, and nobody will do anything about it, and I will go to church on Sunday like it is all good. So do you want to vote? And yes, the government allowed this, including both political parties. Politicians and law enforcement were either complicit or participants. I had so many commenters saying that was so long ago, don't live in the past, we need to move on, that was hundreds of years ago. No, it wasn't. This was 1968. That was 54 years ago. Maybe 1% of people who committed these atrocities were ever held accountable. These are not accusations, but an important reference point. Joe Biden and Mitch McConnell would have been about 26. Donald Trump would have been 22 in 1968. The people who got away with this very well might be making laws today. The past is never dead. It's not even past. Americans who largely identified as Christians were doing racial terror lynchings. It was actually so common and so mainstream that asking me for proof is kind of Kafkaesque about the American education system. Thousands of people were lynched. There would be carnival-like events, picnics with like food vendors. People would take pictures and send them through the mail as souvenirs, not to mention that they would pass out body parts as souvenirs, all the while calling themselves Christians, going to church on Sunday like it's all good, praying to Jesus up on the cross, and then leaving church and going to hang a black man from a tree. This is America. This is white American Christianity. If you have the stomach for it, Google Mary Turner. Look at some of those lynching postcards. Read the books White Too Long and Color of Compromise and White Rage by Carol Anderson. I am sorry to be the one to tell you, but Google is free and you now have a responsibility to look into this. Who grew up in an evangelical culty religion. As I educate myself, though, I really get stuck on this one point. White Christians would go to church on a Sunday wearing a cross around their neck to worship a martyr god who was crucified by being nailed to a cross to be publicly tortured to death for political reasons. And then those same Christians would leave church with a picnic to go to a public lynching. And then they would gather by the hundreds or thousands to do to a black person the same or worse than was done to their martyr god. And then they would pass out the body parts as souvenirs, and they would take photographs to go on postcards. And they would bring their kids and call themselves, without irony, Christians. What the actual fuck? Exactly am I a sick person for talking about America's history of lynchings? Talking about something sickening is not what makes it sickening. The inherent abominable nature of lynchings is what makes them so difficult to discuss and to confront.
Hey, good morning. A moment in white history. Not only did they lynch children, but they also lynched pregnant women. This is the story of Mary Turner. On May 19th, 1918, Mary Turner was lynched from the Folsom Bridge just 16 miles north of Valdosta, Georgia. An angry white mob bound her by her feet, strung her up in a tree and hung her upside down, poured gasoline on her body and lit her on fire. They burned all the clothes and hair from her body, but Mary Turner was still alive. Enraged at her inability to die, somebody from the angry white mob showed up with a massive butcher knife and stabbed her in the abdomen. Still alive, her baby fell out, and when it hit the ground, somebody else came up and stomped the baby's head in, killing it instantly. Mary Turner was still alive, so the whole mob grabbed their guns and filled her body full of bullets. Why? Because she spoke out about them lynching her husband the day before. And that's how lynching pregnant black women became today's moment in white history.
Do you know the tragic story of Mary Turner? It's almost 105 years since the brutal murder of 21-year-old Mary Turner, who was 8 months pregnant and lynched on May 19, 1918 by a white mob, only a day after her husband, Hayes Turner, was lynched. It began when a plantation owner named Hampton Smith was murdered in southern Georgia. Now, Smith was known to be very abusive to his black workers, beating them for saying things like they were too sick to work. So someone shot Smith and it killed him. This was seen by the white people in the South as a black person stepping out of line. For weeks, black people were killed and lynched by the angry mob. Investigations found that some bodies had been shot by around 700 bullets. And even persons without connections to Smith were also murdered by tying weights to their ankles and throwing them in the water to drown. Eventually, they got their hands on Hayes Turner, who had some ties and conflicts with Smith. And while he was being transported by the police, they handed him over to the mob, who hung him from a tree. Mary Turner, his 21-year-old wife, was very upset that her husband was executed without a trial or evidence, so she publicly spoke out about it. And the angry white mob decided to teach her a lesson. Being 8 months pregnant, they tied a rope to her ankles and hung her upside down. Then they drenched gasoline and oil on her clothing and lit her on fire while she burnt alive. They then used a knife to cut her stomach open. Her baby then fell to the ground, gave 2 feeble cries, and then someone stomped the baby's head into the ground. You'd think they'd be done, but no. The mob then fired hundreds of bullets into Mary's burning, torn open body, and Mary and her unborn baby were buried a few feet away, and someone placed a whiskey bottle to mark the grave. No one was really held accountable for the way she was dehumanized, and in 2010, a historical marker was finally placed and dedicated to Mary more than 90 years later. The murder of Hayes Turner and the others was deplorable enough, but the method by which his wife Mary Turner was put to her death for simply speaking out publicly against her husband's execution and murder was just horrifying and revolting.
Someone used a knife ordinarily reserved for splitting hogs to cut open the woman's abdomen. The infant fell from her womb to the ground and cried briefly, whereupon a member of this Valdosta, Georgia mob crushed the baby's head beneath his heel. Hundreds of bullets were fired into Mary Turner's body, completing the work of the mob. The Associated Press, in its notice of the affair, observed that Mary Turner had made unwise remarks. See?
That black children were used as alligator bait. Yes, you heard me correctly. Black kids, black babies, were stolen from their mothers and used as alligator bait. Before some of you yourself, say anything, black trauma is not up for debate, so let's get into it. So, alligator hunting during the 16th to the 20th century was a profitable business. They were hunted for a bunch of different reasons, for their meat, to make bags, shoes, belts, and so on. So the hunters would use the black babies as baits for the alligators to come out of the swamps. Those babies were basically kidnapped from their mothers while they weren't watching or while they were working away, slaving away in the fields. And enslaved people with babies were obviously an easy target. But get this, sometimes the mothers were given $2 for use of their babies. So basically, I stole your child from you. You didn't always know. Your child either died, was tortured, tormented, horrified, and here is compensation for that, which is $2 sometimes. Pure evil. So the babies were thrown or dropped into the swamps, sometimes tied with a rope. In the Jim Crow Museum, there is evidence of the kids being tied with a rope in their necks, skinned, to then be dropped into the swamps. There would have been a rifleman waiting, watching while in hiding nearby for the alligator. The children were also tied near shorelines of rivers and more. There's actually a lullaby, a song created by Henry Wise and Sidney Perrin about all of this, and its name is, as you can see on the screen, Mammy's Little Alligator Bait. Also, so many things like postcards, stamps, cartoons, toys, attractions, and so on were created to have more people come into the country. So how or why did this all start, right? Well, apparently when the white hunters went to hunt the alligators, they would come back with, missing an arm, a leg, they were hurt, and so on. So since everybody's so creative, what they decided to do was quite innovative. And well, they decided to use black babies. Now, some people, y'all know who I'm talking about, like to deny this ever happening, but the evidence is there. Innocent black babies used as alligator bait. Guys, we need to know the truth about our history, slavery, oppression. As much as there are positive things about our history, you need to also know the dark side and never forget it. Because what you learn at school is not enough, it's not the truth, it's not always correct, or the truth is actually bent, obviously to make certain people seem like the good guys. Do your research for yourself. The more you know about your history, the better. Did you know that black children were used as alligator bait?
American history ruins everything. Florida, this missing American history moment is for you. Back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, alligator skins were all the rage. They went on pocketbooks, shoes, belts, you name it. So alligator hunting was a very lucrative industry. However, it was also a very dangerous one. Many hunters were losing their limbs and some their lives because the water needed to be agitated in order for the alligators to come up out of the marsh. So what's a hunter to do? Kidnap little black babies from their mothers and take them to the marsh, tie them with a rope or a chain, and have them splash around in the water to attract the alligators. Gator bait. The practice was so popular, they put it on tourist postcards. This is a wrapper for soap. And this was for licorice drops. So for all you University of Florida Gator fans who love to chant gator bait and are now disappointed that you can't do it anymore, I hope you learned something today. Maybe that's why they don't want American history taught in Florida.
So this is all I got. This is all I got from the stitches and all that, because somebody actually came to my email to tell me that some certain things never happened, and that Lynn and Shane ain't happening anymore, or it never happened, and all this were made up. Yo, I know they were all made up, but you all can see all that for yourselves, right? I hope all these, the ones that I am putting up to you, I hope they are made up. I do not know why you all are so scared of talking about race or talking about the history, the things that has happened, and which you all know that it happened. But when it is taught by a black person, the person is probably trying to bring you all down. I don't get anything from bringing you down, man. I am talking about black history, something that happened in black history and still happening to this very moment. I mean, the case of Mary Turner. Did you not know? If you do not know, or maybe we are also lying, black people are also lying about everything, check it out. Check it out. It is all out there. Now let's get into the ghetto bit. You know, there are some things you see, you know that some people are so evil. I mean, they are so evil that, I mean, it has eaten deep in their blood. See, they were using black babies for get up bait, right? But they had children. Why did they not for once try using their own children to see if the ghettos will also eat it or not? Did they ever try that? They did not. But black kids are okay to use for ghetto bait, but their own children are not used for. This is to tell you that they knew what they were doing. They know that they truly they are evil, because it's only an evil person that will wake up to do something like this. Yeah. If you are not evil, why would you not use your own child to see if it's going to work or not? And then they thought, you know, kids started missing, mothers started looking for their children and all that. So when they start crying and wailing, they can't find their kids, what did they use to compensate them? $2. I mean, I want us to, see some of these things and reflect on why black people are still hurting. These are still the reasons why they are still hurting. Because when they tell the story, there are always the ones that want to make up stories. But have you guys ever taken time to sit back and think about the horrible things they did to them? To this very moment, did Lynn and Shane stop? No, it did not stop. It is still happening. It evolved from police to the rest of it. The white woman that told you that, is she not a Christian? She is a Christian, but she was bold enough to understand and to know the lies that were told, especially in Christendom. Yes, because most of the people that were going to Lane and Chain were all Christians. Every Sunday, they go to church, they drink tea, and they talk about what is the next thing, where are we going next to Lane and Chain? Who is the next person? When they print, if people could print postcard to Lane and Chain somebody, it means it's something they prepare for. Right? It is something they prepare for. And the ghetto babes, they also get postcards. I mean, I can stay here and talk and talk and talk and not even get tired, because, man, there are some certain things I look at and I see and I am like, man, they have every right to be mad. They have every right to be angry. They have every right not to trust anyone. You know what? There was a day I was going out. I was in the bus and I met a young student. He's in college and he started talking to me and he started talking about history. I told him I have a channel that talks about history. He said, African American history is one of the saddest history he has ever heard. I didn't even tell him anything. I did not tell this young man anything. He is Turkish. He said that is the worst, like the most horrible history he has ever heard. That the fact that they have to endure all this and still enduring it, it's something that marvels him. This is where I am going to draw the curtain. Thank you all so much for the support. See you all in my next video. Bye for now.